Welcome, everybody, back here at Veil of Sound, once again with our regular Sunday interview. And I think we got somebody here with us that more of you should know, and many of you have usually the chance to see them every year. I'm very, very happy to have Filip from Hexis here on the show. Filip, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. And to explain my little introduction, Hexis is one of those bands which seem to take the Dylan kind of method, tour until you die. At least that's the way it seems very often.
Pretty much, yeah.
Filip,
Yeah,
you're just back from a tour across both American continents, if I'm right, correct?
Yeah, so I mean, we went through for almost 4 months. We started with like 3 weeks in Europe, and then we went straight to Canada for 3 weeks, then South and Latin America for 1 month, and then into the US for 5 weeks. So yeah, left home end of August and came home right for Christmas again. That was like the longest run we have done so far.
You came back right the day before Christmas, isn't it?
Last year was on December 21, so I took a flight from New York on 22, and then I arrived back home on the 23.
Oh my God.
So yeah, pretty much.
That's dedication. That's definitely dedication.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you like to tour, but how stressful is it to be on the road for 4 months?
It really depends. Sometimes stuff goes smooth, other times stuff fuck up. Like I definitely feel like this tour we did now. I don't know if you heard about it, but a drummer left the band in the middle of the tour.
Yeah,
So that was quite stressful to have to figure out drummers. I mean, literally a drummer situation, right? Like in the middle of the tour, like we figured out this same night as we had to play. So that made the tour quite stressful, but I don't know. I mean, usually if nothing too bad like that is fucking up, then I don't know. Like I feel like if you just make sure that you are as prepared as possible from home, like then obviously it makes the whole experience more chill, I will say.
So maybe you can guide us through that whole drummer situation. Did you have that feeling already at the beginning of the tour, like some tensions, or were the remaining members of the band struck, dumbfounded?
I don't know. I mean, like, I guess as the tour moved on, there was definitely some tension starting. So that kind of, I guess, when there already is some tension going on, then spending a lot of time together probably can end up bad. And then, yeah. So, but yeah, it's what it is. I guess, like, yeah.
And the solution that you now found, how did you manage that? I mean, like, you still had literally dozens of shows to play. How did you do that?
So, like, we figured out that a drummer left the band literally 20 minutes before we had to play. We could not find him anywhere.
Shit.
So, yeah. So we texted him where he was, and he texted us back that he was in the airport and he was leaving the tour. So that night, yeah, I know it sounds fucking insane. Everybody that I told this story is like, this can't be real, but yeah, it actually is. So yeah, 20 minutes before we had to play, we found out that he had left the band and he was in the airport. That day we were not supposed to headline. There was another band after us. So we asked the band playing after us if we could switch around. So they will play at our spot and we will play after them. So that gave us like 1 more hour or so to run on. So in that hour, then our bass player was setting up the drums as a backing track. So we still could play that day. So we played like with all the drums programmed. And we had 5 more shows after that. And then, we played these shows. Then the drummer from the band we toured with, he learned a couple of our songs. And the guitarist from that band, who is also a drummer, he learned a couple of songs as well. So the last 2, 3 weeks of the US dates, we had these two guys from the other band splitting the set. So we kind of made it work. And I
And
would
now
say,
you're
man,
back
a
home.
few of the shows.
Yeah, you go on. Sorry.
What, sorry?
You go on. You go on first.
No, no, just saying that some of these shows where we played the drums as a backing track, it kind of worked because, there was a pretty decent PA at the venue, but we also had we also had two shows on more like punk DIY spots with really shitty PA, and especially one of them, I think we have never sounded this bad in these 1,000 plus shows. The thing is, like, usually we always make it sound okay, whatever spot we play at, but trying to play the drums through the most small destroyed PA ever, I mean, it was a tough one, I will say. But yeah.
And now you're back home
So yeah, it
and
was interesting.
you're searching for a drummer, right?
Not really. I mean, to take an example, actually, for such a long time, this band have been just like me and Luca, a bass player. So it was not like we have been used to just like being the two of us and then having different stand-in members. And I mean, I guess at some point we would like to have a permanent drummer again, but it's not like we, how to say, really is like searching that, oh, we need to have one, because we have a lot of people who want to help out with filling in for us and everything, but it definitely feels hard to find somebody who wanna. I mean, to be in this band, you literally have to dedicate your whole life to it. It's not like the most other bands where you go out into a few weeks out of the year. Like with this band, we are on the road for usually more than 200 days a year, and when we're not touring and we are home, there's still a lot of band stuff to do. Like, to take an example, like after I came home from the tour, I had some days off, but then I've just been sitting doing mail work, recording some demo vocals, and literally in 2 weeks we're gonna meet up for a week just to write. So even if there's no shows for 1.5 months, we still have so much stuff to do up till the next run. So literally, to be in this band, you have to dedicate your whole life to it, and I think a lot of people is not up for doing that. You want to do a lot of other things with their life as well.
Have you ever thought about having, how should I say, having drummers or separate drummers for different areas of the globe? I was just thinking of Boys That's Fire, who have a bass player for the US and a bass player for Europe. Could you imagine doing something like that as well, or do you say like,
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess so. To take an example, like, yeah, as I just said before, like we had like these two guys stepping in, playing drums for us over in the US. So, yeah, I mean, like, maybe I could imagine that. But the thing is, like, very often when we tour, like, to take an example, that tour we did now, that was everything was kind of connected. I guess, like, technically, yeah, we could do. Even if we do a tour that's connected like that, we could do like Europe, and then, when we arrive over there, there's another drama waiting or whatever. But it also feels pretty nice, like when you do such a long stretch, that it's kind of the same people you go on with, instead of, you know, we did Europe and there was literally one day off between Europe and Canada, and that was just like a travel day. So if we also had to like kind of put practice in with a new person before the next round of show, that can be a little hard sometimes.
you have just mentioned that you have by now played more than 1,000 shows with Hexis.
Yeah.
Is the myth true that you on several occasions play 2 shows a day?
We did that before, and maybe we will do it again. I like that kind of stuff, but the thing is that I guess so. Last time we did this is like almost 5 years ago, when we toured like in the earlier years of the band. We did it quite often. But also back then, I guess, it was a little more simple for us, because first of all, the usual Hexis set back then was like we played literally 20 minutes a night. So
Mm.
let's say we will do 2 shows in one day. It will literally just be like 40 minutes in total. And
Mm.
the whole live setup was like way more simple.
Mm.
Nowadays, when we play usually 40 minutes a night, and we have way more gear. Like we have a way bigger light setup, and we run some backing track and stuff like that. So I think, especially for a bass player, Luca, who is a guy setting up all the light stuff and all that, I think he seems a little skeptical nowadays about doing the 2 shows in one day thing because there's so much more work for us now doing a show.
Mm.
But I don't know, maybe we'll do it again someday. I guess like if it makes sense. Sometimes you see some bands playing festivals, and who knows? Let's say maybe we're gonna get a cool festival offered the same day as we have another festival. Maybe we will do it like we could play one of them early in the afternoon and the other one in the night.
Mm.
So, but yeah, we have done it a couple of times in the past.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I have by now seen 2 Hexis tour announcements, which both were amazingly long. And like I've seen more than 2, but I think on 2 of those announcements, I have seen empty spots where you said like question mark, like we want to play, but we don't know where yet. I know you managed to set up dates for basically every night, but how does it make you feel
Almost.
when you go on tour and let's say you go for 100 gig run and you know that on 5 of those dates you don't have a gig by now? How does it make you feel?
It depends. I mean, also like, I will say sometimes when there's like a TBA or whatever on a poster, sometimes it's because we know that there's a show booked, but we cannot announce it. To take an example, that tour run we just did over in Mexico, we were playing 2 Mexico City shows, but we were not allowed to announce the second one before we had played the first one.
Oh.
So, because, the thing is like Mexico City is a big city, so you can play 2 shows there, but obviously we wanted the first and main show to turn out as strong as possible.
Mhm.
So we literally played the first one, the next one was 5 days later, so we could first announce the next one. Then also to take an example, like today we just announced the showcase we were playing over in Slovenia. It's literally by the end of next month, and we knew that we are booked for it quite some time, but that one we could also first announce today. So sometimes it has something to do with that, but I would say like when it comes to off days and tour, I think it depends on a couple of things. Like to take an example, uh, the first off days we had on the latest tour, like technically off days where we didn't have to either fly or drive, just could stay in one city and chill. That was over in Brazil, and I think it was Brazil. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And that felt honestly really, really good because at that point we had already been out for like 2 months, I think, at that point. And also to have an off day in Brazil is something that was really, really cool because I mean, how often do I get over to Sao Paulo?
Yeah.
But I would say like having an off day in whatever small city in Germany or France or whatever doesn't seem too interesting to me. And I guess also, to take an example, like the US run we did, we had like a couple of shows which getting canceled pretty last minute. And I remember like when the first of them got canceled, I didn't really mind because again, we had been out for so long, so it was nice to chill a little. But I remember there was like one week over there, like where we only played like 4 shows in 7 days. And I remember on the second and third off day, I was starting to being a little tired of having, so many days off in a row
Mm.
because it was like the last part of the tour, and I honestly just wanted to smash in as many shows as possible before going home for some time, I guess. So yeah, it depends from each part of the world and how long we have been out at that point, I guess.
Can you name the number of countries that your band has played in by now?
How many countries?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if you go to our website, hexisband.net, literally we have every shows written down that
Yeah.
we ever played. So I mean, technically I could go in there and count, but honestly, I'm not sure. I can't remember on top of my head, but it's quite some places.
Well, that might be a little task for all those people out there. If you give us the correct number of countries that Hexis has played in by now, we'll throw in a goodie for you. But you must be first to write it down here in the comments. You know, I'm very sure we figure something out with Filip, or with
Yeah.
our own merchandise. Filip, when we were talking before, we spoke about one thing that seems to be very, very important to the band, and I would like to focus on that a little bit. Your band seems to be one of those prime examples of the DIY ethos. Like, we do it ourselves as much as possible. Is
Yeah.
that something that is really important to you?
I guess to some extent, I mean, I will say, I mean, I definitely feel proud of what we have achieved with Hexes. And I mean, obviously, most of it is stuff we have done by ourselves. So that, I feel like, in some way it's important also because, I have such a, I guess, clear idea of everything I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I guess, something I kind of had had to realize over the last couple of years is that by the help of certain people, then we have also been able to achieve things that probably I will not have been able to do by myself.
Mm-hmm.
To take an example, literally right now, we are booked for like, I think, 10 different summer festivals. And the majority of these are quite big, like which one did we announce already? Like, to take an example, like we announced that Resurrection Fest in Spain, and yesterday we are around Damnation Festival, and we have a couple of more of these coming up. And the thing is that I didn't book any of these by myself. I don't know, maybe I could if I really tried, but we're having this guy now who is literally, he knows a lot of important people that I don't know personally. So now we took him on, and he literally got us a lot of big festivals, which also pay quite well, stuff that we haven't been able to do by ourselves. So I don't know, maybe I still prefer to do a lot of things by myself, but I'm maybe also starting to realize a little that getting in some people who have some contacts I don't have might be also a good thing to do. But I will still say that there's definitely a lot of things. I mean, I never think with this band, I just could say like, hey, here we have a manager guy, he sold everything. I just have to scream in a mic. That will definitely never happen. But
Mm-hmm.
like getting in some helping hands from here and there, that's definitely something we're looking a little more into now.
Let me guess, you guys don't have a tour manager, do you?
Nah, that's I mean it depends on where we're touring.
Mm-hmm.
So when we usually I mean when we tour in Europe and the majority of the places where we tour around, like I'm the tour manager, but to take an example, like when we just did Mexico now, we had like one guy, he actually booked all the shows over there.
Mm-hmm.
He was the tour manager and the driver, so he was literally in charge of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I did there was literally just like selling a merch and yeah, playing the concerts, I guess.
When you give away a little bit of that control to other people, do you then take care of who it is? Like, are you careful with whom you choose?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, we tried to work with some people in the past where I definitely not were happy about what they did. I just feel like I mean, obviously, I appreciate people who wanted to help out with the band, but I also tried like people in the past who wanted to do stuff for us, and I very quickly realized that what they did, I could do better by myself.
Mm.
So I definitely feel like have after we experienced that a couple of times, that definitely made me a little more careful. I guess like how we kind of do it now, if we take in some new people, maybe gonna be like letting them doing a tiny bit at first, and if that goes well, then kind of, I guess maybe yeah, I don't know. I would say maybe need a little time to build up trust or whatever you want to say before
Yeah,
like
it's like
letting them.
delegating jobs step by step, right?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess you can say so. Yeah. So I mean, to take an example, if whatever person I never met just came out of the blue and said, "Hey, let me do this and that and that and that for your band," I would say like, "No way, I'm not gonna trust that." So,
Is
and I guess probably also to take
you
an
go ahead.
example, now I mentioned that guy, which now is booking some bigger festivals for us and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, I've seen some of the work he have done before. Like to take an example, he is booking for, you probably know the band Celeste.
Heard her name, yes.
Yeah. But to take an example, like he's their booker guy and is doing management for them. And it's like a similar band in a genre and they're doing a lot of cool things. So obviously from seeing what he have done from them, that makes me kind of trust that he will do something good for us as well. So,
Mm.
so yeah, I don't know. I guess like try to be careful and kind of feel, after doing this for a lot of years, I kind of know how to feel. How do you say it in English? Like
How to
feeling my.
do you mean like how to evaluate your own feelings and the people in front of you?
Yeah, no, yeah. I guess like usually after meeting a lot of people, I know kind of quick who to trust in the of doing the thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you can
So you
you
learn, you learn over the years.
yeah, I think you just simply learn to see people for what they are more quickly, right?
Yeah, I guess yeah, for
Um,
sure.
those people that you work with, I mean, like, how do you choose them? What do they have to have? Is it a certain ethos? Is it what do you cherish more? People who share the same ideas as you, or people who have amazing connections?
It depends. I mean, to take an example, I feel like, I mean, going back to the whole booking thing, I've been doing it for so many years and I kind of know how to, I guess, getting shows in most parts of the world, but I kind of feel like a little what we maybe have been struggling with Hexis was like getting a lot of these big festivals booked. I mean, we definitely played some of them. Which we also, what we kind of saw from playing some big festivals. To take an example, like last year we played a festival over in Serbia called Exit Festival,
Mhm.
and honestly, all club shows or DIY shows, whatever we had played in Serbia, the earlier years have never really been that good. We played so many shows in Serbia just for a small amount of people. But then after doing that big festival, the next DIY club, whatever show we had there, we had a lot of people show up. So I guess that kind of made us realize that definitely a good thing for a band like Hexis is playing a lot of festivals,
Mm.
especially the big ones, because then when we are coming back and is playing our own smaller shows, more people will show up.
Mm. Of course.
But I also, from doing all this booking for myself for so many years, I definitely figured out a lot of these bigger festivals can be very hard to book if it's not done by an agency who knows a lot of bigger, people from working with other bigger people, whatever. So I will say like what is important for me to take in somebody helping out with the booking is definitely that that person have a lot of the right contacts because otherwise, I could just do it by myself. I mean, I feel like, the only reason for us to take in, I mean, obviously it's also nice to save a little of my own time, even if I love doing the booking stuff. But I feel like for a band like Hexis, if we need somebody helping us out with the booking stuff, then it's not so much for saving time, then it's mostly because it's a person who can get us shows that I'm not able to get by myself. But of course, we also want it to be a person who understand what the band is about. Uh, Not like, I mean, we're definitely interested in going out and playing a lot of festivals which have, to take an example, also today we literally just announced the showcase over in Slovenia, which a lot of rap and pop artists, stuff like that, we're also interested in doing. So that's also cool. But I would still say that, it's also important that it's a person who understand what the band is about, I guess. But yeah, in the booking game, probably mostly somebody who can get stuff done that I'm not able to do by myself.
So when you do the booking yourself, how do you go about? Do you guys make like a plan? Okay, we want to go to this city, to that state, to that country. And do you then look for the clubs yourself, or how do you do that?
It depends. I mean, when we start, quite often then we receive mails from different bookers who is like, to take an example, oh, somebody write us the next time you guys are looking for a show in this city, hit me up. And then, I save the contacts so I kind of know who to hit up. And, I also spend quite some time at when other bands announce tours and just like looking at these tour plans, and very easily, if there's a tour post out there, it's quite easy to go in and find all the contacts. So it's usually, I would say that when we do a tour, like we usually try to plan it around us going to some cities where we had like a good experience in the past, and then hitting up a few new spots as well. So let's say, yeah, the what will be a good example, like yeah, the latest European tour we did. I guess that one was like a pretty standard road, like around Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, Austria, Italy, yeah, all these standard spots. So on that one, we kind of had a handful of cities we wanted to go back to, and we also wanted to go to a few new ones. So yeah, I kind of knew who to hit up about it, and yeah, back and forth, I guess.
So let's think about it. If you could name 3 cities in Europe and 3 cities on the American continent that you have not played in yet,
Yeah,
that you would be interested in playing, for everybody out there, Philip, which cities would you like to play?
that is a good question. I
I
mean,
know.
honestly, I think one of the few countries we haven't played yet in Europe, that is, what the fuck is the capital of Montenegro called? Something with P. I forgot the name.
Pristina?
I can't remember. Anyway, so
I'll look it up for you.
I would say just in general, like I would really like to get a show booked in Montenegro. I don't know if it's going to be a good show, but mostly because it's literally probably one of the last countries we haven't played in Europe. So it's more like to get that one locked in. So that will be really cool.
Podgorica.
Yeah, okay. That one will be cool. I don't know, maybe the show will suck, but I would still like to go there.
So
And
one.
what else? Yeah, that's one. What else for Europe? The thing is that honestly, I feel like with Europe, we probably played like most of the cities that will have been cool to go to. To take an example, like back in the summer, we played over at Malta. That's something I wanted to go to forever. I mean, the show was not the best, but that one kind of got crossed off the list there. But yeah, what else? Actually, I think like for Europe, we probably played like all the cool cities. I mean,
Would
that maybe there will be what will that be? I can't really think of too much for Europe. I can
Cool.
definitely tell you something for the US since we haven't played that
Okay,
tour.
so hit us up. But by the
Probably,
way, every European booker who's just heard this, it does not mean that they don't want to play in your town.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of places in Europe, like I would like to go back to, like we haven't played Athens in Greece for some time. We haven't played Bucharest for some time. This is literally two of my favorite cities in all of Europe, so we want to go
And
back
see,
there
those are
soon.
free cities that are not that far away from each
But
other,
we already
people.
played that
So
before. But yeah,
see, that makes a good round.
yeah. For the
Throw in a
US,
little bit of Tirana, throw in a little bit of Thessaloniki,
yeah,
Sofia, and you already have a tour.
yeah, for sure.
And
For the
and the
US,
US?
I will say for the US, probably on the top three of most places I actually want to play in the whole world. That's probably gonna be Honolulu in Hawaii.
Oh,
That'll be fucking sick. Yeah, I really hope we can go there someday. We were supposed to play there some years ago when we had a US tour planned, but that one ended up being cancelled. And then another US city that's probably going to be the capital of Alaska. I'm not sure if I'm
Anchorage.
spelling. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these two for sure.
Although I'm not sure if Anchorage is the capital, but
I
it's the
think it
biggest
is.
city.
Yeah, yeah, I think yeah, it's that one and what Fairbanks is like the two big cities over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely Honolulu and Anchorage, and a third one that we haven't played. What will that be? Hmm, what will that be? I can't really think of the third one. I think
We're
like
both wrong. The state capital
okay,
of Alaska
actually,
is
okay, I
Juneau.
really this tour we just went to now. We played two shows in Florida, but it was like mainly like the smaller cities. A
Mhm.
city I would really like to go to as well will be Miami. I think that would be cool as well. Haven't been there before. So that's
Depending
gonna
on
be
when
fun.
you're there, it's really hot. But it's a cool city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I in general like I mean now I just said Alaska, I guess pretty cold over there, but in general like then I think I prefer the warmer destinations when it comes to touring.
Says
Like
the
right
guy
now in
from
Denmark
Denmark.
it's so fucking cold. So
Yeah. For transparency, everybody out there, we're recording this in the evening of January 16th, and where I live here in central Germany, the school that my daughter goes to, and where I unfortunately work as well, uh, our school is not having lessons tomorrow because it's that little bit of snow, and that's already enough here. So I
yeah.
don't want to know how it is in Denmark or to our friends in Sweden and Norway. I heard that you are having summer temperatures, only with
I
a
mean
minus in front of it.
I mean the weather is kind of changing from day to day, but I mean it's quite snowy outside and
Mm.
yeah.
Um, when we're talking about destinations that you want to play and destinations that you have already played and would like to go back to, what were like maybe the most interesting places that you went to on this last tour? Which cities amazed you?
Think especially, I mean, I would say actually one of my favorite shows we had on the whole tour that was in Guatemala City, in
Mhm.
the country Guatemala. I was sadly sick most of my stay over there, so I spent quite some time in bed. But I remember like the show we played over there on a Sunday, and I think it was maybe 200 people, and people was how do you say it, like people was very enthusiastic, if I don't know if that's the right
Enthusiastic?
word, but yeah, was really into the show. And sometimes you just play these shows, like of course you can maybe play like a huge show and you don't really feel any connection with the audience, but we played the show over there on a Sunday. It's like 200 people, and I definitely feel that night there was a very strong connection between us and the band. It was one of these I don't know how to explain it. One of these like special moments where everything just kind of fall into place, like exactly how you want it to. So that made like a big impression for me. Sadly, I didn't have like, as I said, like too much time to see the city, but still say like the few walks I got to take around town gave me like a pretty nice impression of the country. Also, Sao Paulo, we had some days off, was also cool over there. I went out a couple of nights. Yeah, seems like a cool place for sure. And what else? The things like also, when we go out and do a lot of these tours, especially when we have such a tight schedule, then a lot of times I don't really get to see as much stuff as I would like to. There's so many days like, I kind of prioritize sleep over actually going out and seeing much. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like that I'm maybe not in the right position to judge a lot of these places because I didn't get to see a lot of them.
Mm.
But I will say, if we are talking about not this exact show we just did now, but the other one we did earlier this year, probably one of the coolest places I've ever been to, which we played on that tour, was French Polynesia.
Oh, French. Okay.
Yeah, that was really fun. Cool. We had some days off there. We had this house right next to the beach, and it almost felt like some kind of dream holiday while we played the
Mhm.
show as well. And then also at the same tour, we also played East Timor, Timor-Leste, which was probably also one of the most craziest experience ever. Like we were like the first international band ever to play over there. There had never been one before, so people had never seen a metal band from another country. So like 3,000 people came out there. That was quite crazy. And we
Superstars.
what?
Superstars.
Yeah, I guess so. But and then yeah, before the show, the promoter took us out to see a lot of things, and yeah, I would say like probably I would say East Timor and French Polynesia is probably on my top list of places we have been to this year.
Have you ever played the Philippines?
Yeah, we played that as well in this tour, which was a very hectic experience. It was pretty much like I think if I remember, where did we play before? I remember we arrived over there and we were so fucking tired. Probably the night before, we just went straight to the airport. So we arrived over there and slept a few hours when we arrived. We got to play and then straight back to the airport again. So this time was literally just seeing a few hours at a hotel, playing the concert, and then to the next country. But we also went there in 2017, where we literally had a whole week over there. So on that show, we got to see more. And yeah, I mean, it's a cool country. I like it over there. Honestly, I
And
feel like most of Asia in general, like especially as a touring band, is a super cool experience. It's literally one of my favorite places in the whole world to make tours around.
I think I've read somewhere that by now you only need shows in Arctica and Antarctica. Otherwise, you have all continents, don't you?
We never toured Africa before.
Ah, then I miss. Oh, then it was probably Antarctica and Africa. That I just mixed up in my head. But yeah,
Probably, yeah.
that let me guess. That is one big goal then, right? Africa.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually trying to go there this year. Hopefully we can go there by the end of this year. We're at the moment I'm in contact with some different people, so we'll see if we manage to work something out. It definitely feels like it's a lot harder to make a tour over there compared to other parts of the world. First of all, there's not as many people booking shows, but also, flying from when you tour around Asia, you can get so many cheap flights from country to country. Literally, you can fly from, I don't know, like Malaysia to Thailand for almost no money. But if you wanna tour around Africa, a lot of these countries, the flights is so fucking expensive.
Mm.
And the payments is also very limited, so it definitely require some more work to put it together in a stable way, I guess.
Mm. And then again, the question is like, how much sense does it make if you play like 2, 3, 4 concerts on a whole continent, right?
No, I mean you can actually play quite some shows. Like to take an example, in I mean I know some bands who did South Africa alone, and they did literally I don't know 8, 9 shows in 2 weeks over there.
Mm.
But I think more like the normal way for bands who do South Africa is more like they play just 2, 3 shows over there. I don't know how many we will do, but if we do these South Africa shows, we'll probably also try to book Botswana, Kenya, Morocco, Madagascar, some of these other countries around. So I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe we
I'm
will
like
do, I guess
Morocco
maybe we
again was like the offshot on your list, but otherwise, yeah, there are enough countries down there. That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
probably we will try to go there for like a month or so. Probably probably take an okay amount of off days actually on this one. Maybe do, I don't know, like 20 shows in a month or so. So
Sounds like a holiday for your measures and standards.
almost. But the thing is like, that's also one thing that makes that part of the world a little more tricky. To take an example, as far as I understood of like talking to a promoter from Botswana, is that you can only play shows on the weekend over there. So it's probably going to be a lot of like playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then you need a few days off before the next thing. And
Mm.
so yeah, we'll see like what way it's gonna work out the best, I guess.
I guess that touring the world and seeing bits of the world is like one of the major driving forces behind your band.
Yeah,
Are
for sure.
there other things as well, apart from seeing the world, going places? What drives Hexis to do that kind of crazy amount of dedication?
I mean, obviously writing the music, to take an example, like we have quite a lot of new music written right now, and I'm honestly I'm listening to these demos all the fucking time because I personally think it sounds so fucking sick. So even if it's only demos, then just like I think writing music that makes me excited, and yeah, I guess that's also a big reason for doing it. I guess also like, I mean, in some way also from traveling all around the world. I mean, as I said, like on a lot of the tours, it's a limited what we get to see, but I will definitely also say like from touring this much, I met a lot of people all around the world that nowadays I consider quite some good friends of mine.
Mm.
So I guess also like it's also a nice way to build up friendships all around the globe. So
Would you say that it's easier, or would you guess that it's easier for a touring band nowadays than, let's say, 30 years ago?
I mean, I didn't tour by myself 30 years ago, but
Of
what
course.
I'm hearing from people who used to tour back then is that it was harder back then because I guess, back then when you booked the tour. So the last couple of European runs we did, we had a driver with us called Janos, a guy from Austria. He's this old punk guy who have been touring for the last 30 plus years. And he told me like back when he started his band and we were going out to do tours around the world, he was usually like sending out letters like to get shows booked because
Yeah.
there was not really the internet to book it. So I mean, I can only imagine how it worked back then, like all the posts you had to send out and then wait for an answer. And it definitely sounds like it was a lot more complicated, but at the same time, then I guess probably less bands were touring back then because it was so much more complicated to put together. So maybe the shows back then, maybe it was easier to get people out to concerts
Yeah,
because of that, I guess. So yeah, I
yeah,
don't
probably
know.
so. I mean,
I mean, I would say like for Hexes, like going out touring now is definitely a lot easier compared to when we started. But I think that have more to do with, that we have been a band for some time, kind of build up, and we have been building up the name. I still remember like when I booked our first tour ever, like where nobody knew about us, like sent out so fucking many mails and almost didn't get any responses. And most of the people who responded was just like, no. So at least now it's not too complicated for me to. I mean, I know if you want to go out and do a tour, it should not be a huge as much work to put together as it was back then. So
Before we talk about some other aspects of your band's do-it-yourself approach, of course, I have to ask, best and worst experience on tour that you ever have, and having your drummer leave 20 minutes before your slot, of
that's the
course,
worst.
qualifies as the worst, but we already had that, so you have to give us the second worst experience
Second
that you
worst.
had.
Okay, actually, I can think of one which probably was worse than a drummer leaving. Oh, I don't know, maybe it's on the same level.
Okay,
But
that sounds like devastating
yeah,
catastrophe. But
actually,
okay.
I told this story quite some time. But when we did our first European tour ever, we played the show in Serbia, and there was next to no people there. So I was just like, okay, I don't really give a fuck tonight. So I just smashed a whole bottle of vodka, which I obviously got quite drunk from. So we played the concert, and I was completely shit-faced, and there was this chain going from the stage to the top of the roof. And I decided to crawl all the way to the top, 3 meters up, and I was hanging upside down while doing my vocal part. And while I was hanging there, the whole chain broke. So I flew down with my head first all the way through a table, which completely broke, and then smashed my head to the concrete floor. And all the other guys thought I was dead. But then after some time, I woke up, and everybody was drunk, so nobody could drive. Plus, everybody told us that the hospitals in Serbia will be shut. So we waited until the next day, and the guys took me to the hospital in Hungary, and I arrived there, and they checked me, and they said I got a fractured skull. So obviously I could not continue the tour. So I was told that I needed to spend 1 month in bed. Um, and I ended up staying at this hospital in Hungary for a week. And I talked to my insurance back home, and at first he said they wanted to bring me back home again. But after they figured out that I had been drinking alcohol, then they didn't want to do anything. So after spending a week there, my father and another guy from my family, they drove all the way to Hungary and picked me up and drove me back home. So I first spent a week in bed in Hungary and then 3 weeks in bed back home. So that was a pretty tough experience. Yeah, the other guys, they played a few shows without me after that. I think like they had a driver on that tour doing some vocals. And then the last week they just canceled and drove back home. So I feel that is probably one of the worst touring experience ever.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
Best experience.
That's
And you don't have to name a city, just explain what made it the best. Because if you name a city, then of course all the other cities in that country are gonna be like, no, we were.
Yeah, I don't know. In some way, when I remember something that made like a huge impression on me. That was like, so we did a tour at Cuba like 10 years ago, and back then, we only used to play like super small shows in front of I don't know how many people, maybe just small audiences most nights. But that show in Cuba, we played for I don't know like 500 to 800 people a night. And since back then, we have definitely played a lot of bigger shows, but back then we have never tried it before. So I remember the feeling of playing these shows back then was kind of crazy to me. Probably it will make less of a big impression on me now if I had to go there compared to back then. But I definitely, thinking back at what I felt about that back then was definitely a very big deal for me. Also stuff like playing Roskilde Festival back then, I've never, that was to play at that festival was like a dream for me back then. So I remember like first of all receiving the mail that we're going to play there, and then also standing on the stage playing there. Probably, honestly, I think thinking back at the show, I don't think we did a super good show as a band because none of us really had any experience playing like on a big stage. But I guess for my own ego or whatever you want to call it, it
Yeah.
was, yeah, I probably gave me something. uh, but I would say like stuff like this is like two things that's coming to my mind. These two for sure.
Looking at your touring ethos and everything, another thing that we should mention is, of course, the question of how much control do you have of your releases? Do you do, for example, the covers yourself? How much influence do you have on everything related to your musical output?
So we own all the rights to our music. Like the latest album we actually did sign like a license contract with a label, but we broke with that label and now they gave us all the rights back. So every time when somebody play our music on Spotify, whatever, all the releases there's in there, all the money go 100% to us from that. And when it comes to like the visual aesthetic, usually it's me who have some ideas, but I don't know how to take pictures or do graphical stuff. So to take an example, like with our latest album, Eternum, which is like the cross with the snakes on,
Yeah.
I literally told the guys who took the pictures that I want a cover who looks like this. I want it to be a huge cross with snakes on, and I want everything around it to be completely dark. And I remember like when I told them what I wanted, I expected what I would get back from them to look very, very different. So, but actually what I got back from them, I was so surprised that what they actually sent to me looked almost like the same as I imagined in my head. So that's like one of the first times I've tried to tell other people what I wanted, and what I got back looked so close to what I had imagined. So, but yeah, usually like that. And to take an example, I don't know if you have seen like the vinyl version of the album, but like all the stuff with like on the back of it, there's this when you tip the cover, you can see a logo. There's some print inside of the pockets with all the lyrics
Yeah.
going down. Like all these things is like my ideas. Like I'm like, I want this there, I want that, and blah blah blah. And then I literally the people who is doing the layouts for them, I try to be as precise as possible of what I want, and then hopefully they manage to pull it off as close to what I had in mind.
But that again means that, I mean, like, okay, you give away a little bit of that
Yeah.
control, but that also means that before you give away a lot of that control, you must probably sit down for whatever amount of time and really like think really hard about what you want to have in order to be the result as close as possible to your idea, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, my brain is constantly overthinking stuff all the time because I don't know, I'm very picky when it comes to both music, art, and sometimes, sometimes I have a lot of ideas, but other times I'm really struggling to come up with something which in my mind sound or look cool or whatever. So, I'm trying to think all the time, oh, what are we gonna do for the next release or whatever? To take an example, we have a lot of new music written right now, but I have to say that I'm very low on ideas of what I want the artwork to look like. So I hope before we have to come up with an idea that something cool strikes my mind, because I know just like to take an example, if I'm just gonna let whatever guy come up with something, I'm definitely not gonna be satisfied with it. So yeah, we'll see.
Sorry, folks, just had to unmute myself for a second. You say that you are now clearer about what you want and everything. This feeling of being able to give away things, is that something that grew on you, where you say like, okay, I had to come to a certain spot or to a certain time in my career or in our career where I was able to also trust people a little bit more? Did it take a lot of time for you?
I guess so. I mean, like, honestly, I think for the majority of Hexis existent, I've been very close-minded about a lot of things. You know, I want everything to be like an exact thing, you know, everything had to be in this kind of box and not too much outside of that. I think like, I mean, both musically, but also when it comes to artwork and how things had to be done. And feel like over the last couple of years, I definitely, I would say I got a little more open-minded, like to do things that maybe I not will agree on to earlier. I mean, a lot of it is like, to take an example, right now we are writing music and we are trying out a lot of new things that probably I not will have liked years ago, but
Mhm.
also I feel like when we write right now, I wanna when I'm kind of like, if somebody have an idea, even if I'm very skeptical about if it's gonna work or not, I still want to try it out because, you know, sometimes you can be surprised about what actually is gonna work. And I guess also right now I'm trying out a lot of new things like vocal wise,
Mhm.
and some of the stuff I'm trying is very different from what I've done earlier. And I'm thinking a lot like, is this gonna fit into Hexes? But also I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, okay, is this gonna sound does this sound cool in my mind? And then I want to do it. I don't want to overthink too much of it have to be this exact way, because also, you know, we have been around for like 13 years. You know, you have to start to do something a little different instead of just repeating the same things over and over again.
So the next record is going to have features by Drake and Taylor Swift, right?
Maybe, who knows? We'll see. Maybe we're
But
gonna have.
honestly, like, of course, those two are never going to happen because your band
Yeah.
is just way too good for both of them. But um, would you are you like, are you guys as a band able to tip your toes into really other genres? Like, for example, do some kind of classic rock track or some kind of pure pop punk thing, whatever. You know what I mean? Do you
I
think you would be
mean,
able to dip your toe into that kind of genre?
nah, I don't. Probably not something like that. But I mean, to take an example, if you look at our latest album compared to the old stuff,
Yeah.
I definitely feel like you can see some new you can hear some new influences on that one. You know, we have all that. To take an example, like the last record, the last song on the record is, I guess, pretty much like dark, atmospheric,
Yeah.
ambient stuff, and that is not something we really have done before. So that was all bit like a new thing, and I guess probably also some parts of the record is more hardcore than what we have done earlier, while other
Mhm.
stuff is probably even more metal. And some of the new stuff we do now, I mean, uh, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it's definitely going into some, I would say, some new genres that we really haven't been playing too much around with before. I mean, I don't want to say too much because, you know, so much stuff can change in it before it's actually recorded. So I don't want to sit and say, oh, the next record gonna be with this and that, and then maybe we don't even use it in then.
Yeah.
Like right now we have 16 demo tracks and we're gonna do more soon, so probably not even half of the tracks gonna make it by then. But I will definitely say like the new stuff we do now, we're playing around with a lot of inspirations from genres that we never really have been trying before. So
Last thing before we come to our infamous quickfire round. I mean, like, you've been touring the globe. You've probably seen several hundreds of local support bands, and you've seen a lot of different scenes indirectly.
yeah.
Has any of those scenes, any of those bands, any of those experiences had a clearly audible influence on what your band wrote?
The new stuff, you mean?
In general. I mean, like throughout those 10 years.
That's a good question. I mean, I would say like a lot of the new music we take inspiration from is, I don't really think much of the inspiration is coming from local bands we have played with or anything, but I guess like, one of the first bands, Hexis, we ever toured with, that was Celeste. And I mean, even if we don't take too much inspiration from them anymore, that band has definitely shaped the whole overall sound of Hexis, I will say.
Yeah.
So, that was like, I think Hexis show number 7 or 8. That was as a part of a tour we did with Celeste. So I definitely feel like, their music and the guys in the band and how they do everything have definitely shaped Hexis in a lot of ways. But that, that's so long ago, and yeah.
Filip, first of all, thanks for all the insights and the thoughts and how you go about things. Maybe a few people out there have learned a little bit on how to be a little bit more DIY with their own band. But of course, nobody leaves the Veil of Sound interviews without going through our infamous quickfire round. I will not explain the rules anymore because this is our 100th video. So if you don't know how it works, go back and check out some of the other ones. But as you've mentioned Celeste, let's start off with them directly. I'll give you 2 of their records and you have to choose. One of the more recent ones, Assassins, or Assassins, probably in French, versus one of the older ones, Mort-Naise.
I gotta go with Mortis Niece. I think that's their best record. That record, I don't even know how many times I've been playing that record on repeat. It's probably going to be one of my most listening to records ever. I also think the new one is great, but I feel like older Celeste is probably more my thing.
It's also probably more both our thing because, I mean, we both know that usually the first 1 or 2 records that you hear by a band are the ones that you're going to like best. That's just the way it is.
It's true, but I mean, Mortis Niece, that is like the 4th records.
It is.
Yeah.
Was it the first one you listened to?
What, sorry?
Was it the first or the second one that you listened to, or did you know their stuff before?
I mean, I literally started listening to Celeste right when they released the first one. I remember there was this record label called Denuvali Records.
Yeah. Still around. Shout out to our friends in Essen.
But it's completely different now. Now it's more like of a jazz label. But when it started back then, it was literally just screamo bands. And Celeste started out as a screamo band. So I remember like following everything. Back in the years, I was more of a screamo kid, I would say. And I was listening to all these Denuvali bands, and Celeste was like one of them I discovered, and I was stoked right away. So that just made me follow the band and literally bought everything they released. But yeah, I love Celeste since day one, but my favorite one is the 4th album from them, Mortis Niece.
As you're Danish, I will give you a comparison. Which band do you think is harder, our friends in LLNN or the veterans from Chicago in Indian? Which band is harder?
I like LLN better, but I also have to say that I never really listened too much to Indian. But I mean, I heard some tracks, but it's never really a band I've been digging too much into. But I think literally LLN is one of the best bands to ever come out of Denmark. I mean, both on records and in a live setting.
Yeah, I mean, like I still remember their live show. And was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? 2 years ago at Roadburn. They were playing one of the first shows in the afternoon. And I felt as if the building would be collapsing upon us all because it was so amazingly heavy. And yet one could hear everything in the song. So that was amazing.
Yeah.
When we talk to somebody who knows his stuff, of course, let's go back some old school. I chose this one because you're going to play a show with them later this year with one of those two. Nails versus Unbroken.
Honestly, I mean, I know Unbroken by name, but I'm not sure I've ever checked out the music. I don't know what it sounds like. Probably some
It's
sludgy stuff, right?
no, it's very hardcore-ish. It's very hardcore-ish.
Okay. Okay,
It's
then
one
I
of
don't know
those
what the band sounds
it's
like.
one of those Cali scene bands. But so do you like Nails because you're playing with them at Damnation this year?
Yeah. It's actually funny. I remember like first time I heard Nails, I mean that's many years ago. And I remember at first I didn't really like it, but then I saw them live at Roskilde Festival, and that actually really convinced me. I was like, okay, this is a really fucking solid band. So yeah, I mean I do like the band. It's not really something I listen too much to on records, but I'm definitely excited about seeing them play at that festival.
I'm not sure whether you are into either of those, but I thought, if we talk about Unbroken, then those next two bands are quick connections. Swing Kids versus The Locust. A little bit of free 1G records in here.
Honestly, I don't like Swing Kids too much. Yeah, it's not too much my thing, but I love the Locust, and I saw them a couple of times, and that band is so fucking sick. I mean, was sick. The drummer is dead now, so I
Yeah.
guess the band is over. But yeah, I remember like the two times I saw them was like some of the tightest I have ever seen a band play. That was so fucking
Definitely.
impressive. So yeah,
And
I
I mean,
love
like
that band.
when you think about how many shows they've spent under those masks, I mean, like, come on, that's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
You just mentioned or you just dropped the word sludge, so I'll give you two sludge bands from the States, both originally from Savannah, Georgia. Baroness versus Kylesa.
I don't really like any of these two.
That's
But
honestly is always good. We like honesty here.
but if I should pick one of these two, might gonna go with Kalisa. I don't know. I mean, it could also be I just need to check out the two bands a little more. I mean, I actually think I saw both of them live, but it's so many years ago, and I don't know. For some reason, that's never really catch my attention, I guess.
Well, for all of you listeners out there, just drop Filip a list or like a record from both bands that he should check out. I would have preferences on both, but I won't give them to you. So drop us a comment so Filip knows what is his homework will be.
Yeah.
Two labels that both are not known for being very DIY with their bands, but who have a huge influence on the scene. And I just want to know if you could see your band joining either of those two. Relapse Record versus Nuclear Blast.
I definitely have a favorite, but also right now we're shopping for a new record label, so I don't know if I want to say one over another in case that one label should like us. I don't know, but I don't know. Probably.
No, don't say it. Don't say it. Nope. If you're
Okay.
shopping labels, then we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
For the old hardcore kid, Filip. Orchid versus Combat Wounded Veteran.
What bands again?
Orchid.
Yeah.
Versus Combat Wounded Veteran.
I'm gonna go with Orchid. That used to be when I mean I'm not listening too much to it nowadays, but like back in the MySpace days when I was listening to all this like screamo, emo, violent stuff, that was a band that was very much on repeat for me.
Yeah, for most of us, wasn't it? Some funny, heavy metal from Norway. I like both bands, and don't ask me why, but I still like both of them. Although they also had parts in their discography and history where I say for both like, But Kvelertak versus Turbo Negro.
I don't like any of them. Honestly, I think both of them
I like
it's
that.
not that yeah, it's it's very far from my taste in music.
If you were playing a festival with either of them, would you watch them?
I actually did watch Kvilla Talk before. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I will watch them if they play it at a festival. But yeah, I guess it's kind of more like rock and rollish stuff. It's not so much my cup of tea.
Let's go way back before you were even born, I guess. Old Papa me knows them. The early records of Slayer versus the early records of Metallica.
What do you consider early? Like, because
For
honestly, one of my
let's say for Metallica, everything up to And Justice for All, and for Slayer, everything up to, let's say, Seasons in the Abyss.
Okay, because I mean, definitely my favorite Slayer record is God Hate Us All. I think that's such a sick record.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. But I also have to say, I mean, there's still like some older Slayer stuff I also like, but that God Hate Us All record is definitely the one I've been listening the most to. And yeah, I don't know. Probably
would you say that
like,
would you say that you would choose those over any of the Metallica records? Because then you have your answer.
Yeah. But actually, I would still say that I probably like Metallica's Kill 'Em All better than a lot of the old Slayer stuff. So
good compromise.
Yeah.
Let's go to the last two genres that I sometimes feel have played a role in the sound of Hexis. I'm not sure how much death metal you listened to. And I will not give you the classic Death versus Morbid Angel question. Everybody has done that before. Cannibal Corpse versus 6 Feet Under.
Cannibal Corpse. But I guess, I mean, I have to say I've never really been listening a lot to both bands, but I remember like one of my latest experience with Cannibal Corpse was that I saw them play at a festival in probably 2018, and I actually got surprised about how much I liked it. And one of the things I'm thinking about when I'm thinking at 6 Feet Under is going to YouTube and laughing at some of the last couple of records from them because the vocals sound so funny.
Yeah, yeah, that band didn't age well.
Honestly, I think it's not too long ago I went into YouTube just to listen to a song just for 2 minutes just to have a good laugh because just these vocals is like, yeah, I mean it's quite funny, I think.
In a way, definitely, yeah. And I mean, like, one cannot deny the black metal aspect of Hexis. I think there is much more black metal than death metal in your sound. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
And let's go back to Scandinavia. And where do we go to Scandinavia if we talk black metal? Of course, we go back to Norway. Dark Throne versus Satyricon.
I never really listened too much to Dark Throne. I remember like when I was younger, I was listening to some Satyricon, but it's also a band I haven't been paying too much attention to for pretty much forever. But I don't know. I guess I'm gonna go with Satyricon probably.
Do you have like a favorite black metal band?
I actually have to say I don't listen to a lot of black metal. I definitely used to do more when I was younger. And I guess like a lot of the black metal music I like is more like other genres of music which have been taking inspiration from black metal. But probably if I should pick like a favorite black metal band, I would probably go with, even if it's also kind of experimental, I don't know if it's considered like real black metal or not, but I would probably go with Blue Nord from France.
Well, you know, if those guys are not avant-garde black metal, then okay, now the genre hoppers will be like, there is a lot of death metal in there.
But you know, some of the records he did are like very experimental, I guess, more like ambient influence. I think my favorite one from them is that, what is that record called? It's like an older one. It's called Udinist? Or is that only the song, one of the songs on there?
No, I think that's one of the songs. If anybody asks me, like, I would say that the first trilogy that they did, you know, that Was it 777? I think that's one of them.
Yeah, I think
That was an amazing game changer for me.
Yeah,
and let's be honest, if you look at classic black metal, it's hard to come up with something new in that genre. I still have to say that, bands like Blut aus Nord or Wolves in the Throne Room, Panopticon, Mismor, Ulfa, I think those are bands that changed the game for black metal and that made it more interesting. And also bands, a lot of people will hate me for it, but like Death Heaven.
I love that one too. I mean,
they changed the game.
Yeah, I mean, definitely like the demo and the first 2 albums is something I was listening a lot to. I haven't paid too much attention to the last couple of things he did, but yeah, the first couple of records was definitely on a repeat when they came out. Yeah,
definitely. Filip, thanks for your time. Thanks for all the insight. I hoped the interview was as pleasurable for you as it was for me. I hope, of course, for everybody out there, it was also a nice one. If you like us, give us a subscription. Don't forget to write down which record Filip has to listen to, Baroness or Kylesa, which one of theirs. And if you like us, give us a subscription here on YouTube. Maybe go to our social media channels and find out more about us. That would be awesome. And otherwise, Filip, for you, your chance to, for final last words.
Oh, what should I come up with? Yeah, catch us on the road somewhere in the future. We're probably gonna play a city near you.
That might be one of the best ways to end this. Filip, thanks for all your time. Enjoy your evening, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.